Okay, good afternoon. Welcome back to those who are joining us for session 2. Welcome to those who weren't able to join us last time but are here for today. We're excited for today's content. Going to go ahead and move us forward. We are recording for future purposes, so you may have seen a pop-up memo come up on your screen that you can approve. Some receive that, some don't, so just wanted to make you aware of that. Some brief introductions, similar to last week. I'm Nicole Medor. I'm the early childhood specialist. I believe Marcy's here. Marcy, can you do a quick hello?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Marcy Whitcomb, the early childhood monitor with the department.
And Nina wasn't able to join us last week. We introduced her, but she's here today. So Nina, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Nina Cunningham. I'm the Head Start State Collaboration Director.
Thank you. Leanne Larson is our early learning team coordinator. Unfortunately, she's not able to join us today. Her schedule has her conducting a curriculum training on another Zoom account. So unfortunately, Leanne's not here, but we do have Anna.
Hi, Anna Hicks. I'm the Children's Cabinet Coordinator in the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation Future.
Perfect. So some quick housekeeping items. At the end of today's session, we will have time to address questions. So with that in mind, please feel free to utilize the chat box feature throughout the presentation. Nina's offered to sort of monitor the chat. So if something is posed as a question or feedback that's pertinent to the conversation that we're having, Nina will certainly just kindly pause the conversation and let us know to address that. If it's something that we want to hold off and wait to respond to at the end of the session, then we'll do that as well. So please know that we will be monitoring that closely and responding as needed in the moment or at the end of the presentation today. Over the course of the next hour, we do not have any scheduled breaks, so please take care of your personal needs whenever necessary. And today's session, like I said, will be recorded and it will be made available for future viewing. On our early childhood website, on the left-hand side, you'll see some tabs, and there's one that's labeled Professional Learning and Resources, and that's where all of the recordings are being stored. And that's where folks from the field can access them later. So last week's recording is already there, and today's session will be added as soon as possible after we close today. So you'll recall that this partnership presentation is really a 3-session overview, and the focus of these sessions is to highlight partnerships between public pre-K programs and licensed community providers. So last week, session 1, we did sort of a 30,000-foot overview of high-quality school and community partnerships that included benefits and barriers, as well as myths and facts. If you haven't been able to access that yet, please do, because there's some good information there. Today, we're going to focus on a panel discussion. So in a moment, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and move it over to that. So you'll see that we have a number of folks from the field that have graciously offered to join us today and offer their insights from their experiences within their own partnerships that they work with. Next week, we'll wrap everything up with the 3rd and final session, and that'll dig a little deeper into how to build a partnership and where to begin. So we'll look forward to hosting that on the 18th. After today's session, we hope that the audience will be able to identify more potential partners and begin to build a network of colleagues that are already operating within partnerships. Additionally, participants will gain a better understanding of the benefits of partnerships and an understanding of how partnerships form and sustain. So building off of what we started last week. Okay, this is just a brief list, and this is where I'm going to stop sharing because these folks are here today, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and I will call out in just a moment. Let me just get my screen set up for that purpose. Okay, so Annie, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Kolaluka. I work at the Bath Area Family YMCA as the program director. and I oversee 2 public pre-K classrooms through both the RSU1 school district, and we have a West Bath school partnership as well. So we have 2 pre-K partnerships here at the Y.
Thanks, Annie. Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Brockett. I am the RSU1 pre-K coordinator, and I'm also the classroom teacher in Phippsburg Elementary.
Thank you, Kate. Monica.
Hi, I'm Monica Miller. I'm the pre-K coordinator and coach for Lewiston Public Schools. We partner with Promise Early Education Center, the Head Start program for Androscoggin County.
Thanks, Monica. Christina.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christina Salois. I am the director at Southern Kennebec Child Development Corporation. I offer public pre-K partnership classrooms in 3 districts, RSU 2, Winthrop Public Schools, and RSU 12.
Thanks, Christina. And Sue Powers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sue Powers, Senior Director of Programs at Aroostook County Action Program. And we are the Head Start partner at SAD1, RSU 50 in Southern Aroostook, and with 2 CTE programs within Aroostook County, both Region 2 and Presque Isle Regional Career. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. And lastly, Rick.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Rick Kolpitz. I am the former superintendent of MSAD 17. I was there for 15 years. I am now with the Department of Education and work as the director of the education in the unorganized territories.
Perfect. Okay, thank you all for those introductions. So in the interest of time, I'm going to dive right in so that we have enough response time for folks. We do have 6 prompts to work through, 2 of which I'd like all panelists to respond to, and then the other 4 will be more directed to individuals on the panel. So our first question today, please feel free to respond, all panelists, but we're curious to know about how or perhaps why the conversations of partnerships first initiated in your agency or in your school. And from those conversations and that partnership, what has been the benefits of partnering for you? If you'd like, we could start at the top with Annie.
Well, I feel like I will defer to Kate Brockett to answer on behalf of the way that partnership formed, because that predates my my work here at the Y, but I can share about what I feel some of the benefits are for our partnership. I really enjoy having the continuity of care with the children here at the Y, knowing that they can start their day as early as 7 o'clock in the morning and be picked up at 5 o'clock and have staff that are the same and continuous throughout the day. It really becomes their home away from home. And so that morning window is their public pre-K day. And then we, secure their care by ensuring that their entire day, it just creates a really nice atmosphere for the children to be here all day long. And so I feel like that's a benefit, and the families benefit by knowing that they can drop their child off and that those same teachers are going to be there throughout their whole day to make sure their child has a really comprehensive level of care. And then I'll let Kate go ahead and answer the first part of that question, which is, how did this get started?
Thanks,
Well,
Annie.
originally it actually predates me, but my understanding is that there were several kindergarten teachers and therapists that had noticed a lack of skills at some of the outlying schools in a district, which happened to be Phippsburg at the time, where I teach right now. And so they started a pilot program there just to introduce children to just some basic skills that kindergarten teachers had noticed and therapists had noticed were kind of lacking in students that didn't have pre-K experience. So that was how the program started. Our program now is it's going into its 12th year. And the collaboration part was really the genius of my predecessor, Rosalie Perkins, who decided that the whole community needed to be part of pre-K. So in that context, she reached out and formed the coalition that we have now, which is the benefits are part of the community. And unfortunately, our program has shrunk a little bit because of childcare changes in the our region. So, and the pandemic has changed things. So we are working towards trying to get our program back to the vigor that it had. Now we're down to just the partnership with the Y and Head Start, which are wonderful partnerships and have been very successful, and offer parents an alternative, like Annie spoke to, that includes all day, which we hope to have maybe an extended day in our public classrooms. That's something we were starting to have a dialogue just prior to COVID. So in hopes that we can help with the needs of the families and students beyond noon, because our program is a half-day program, 35 weeks. So, but our collaborations have been nothing but positive. Unfortunately, they've just, things have happened.
Right.
If
Yeah.
that makes any sense. I can elaborate more if somebody has more questions.
Thanks, Kate.
Did that answer? I hope that answered.
It does, Kate. Thank you. So Sue, you mentioned a couple SAU partners for ACAP. I wondered if you could speak to how those conversations were started and the benefits of those.
Sure, Nicole, thank you. Each conversation seems to come about from a community need, from an identified need either within the district or within our community action agency. At SAD1, we started conversations because CTE, they started partnership with us by bringing their students to a facility that we operated across town for their students to have a lab experience, and decided that wouldn't it be best if the CTE students didn't have to travel across town and we could offer that Head Start classroom within the school. So they made space available within the school for us to move that Head Start classroom to become a lab school for their students. That's how we got our foot in the door. Then through conversations, communication is key. Through conversations, we discovered that there were many pre-K eligible students within the district that were attending our programs across town because they were Head Start eligible, and the families really were invested in the comprehensive services that Head Start offers with family engagement and health and screenings, along with special education services. The district was not able to claim those students because they weren't enrolled in their programs. So that evolved into a conversation about let's become partners so that those students are enrolled within the school district, and they get that additional benefit of having, we have the ESL teachers, some other special services that come over from SAD1. The students are able to stay, as Annie said, in that ACAP preschool classroom for the full day because they get their Head Start portion of the day, and then many of them stay through for full day childcare, avoiding several transitions of busing back and forth between ACAP and public school, which we all know is not ideal for many students. So those conversations were extremely important in getting those two partnerships off the ground. We also, about 17 years ago, were approached in Dyer Brook, so RSU 50, where there was no public preschool program. Head Start was the only preschool game in town. And the principal then recognized that there were some students that were coming to them in kindergarten that had not had a preschool experience and were already starting off behind some of their peers that were coming in after 2 years of Head Start. So approached us about how could we combine resources between Head Start and public school to get a preschool program off the ground within the school district. So all of those partnerships evolved from community needs that were identified within the communities that we're talking about.
Thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
Christina, could you speak to some of that in your experience?
Sure. As others have said, I think that a lot of these partnerships are born out of a need that's identified. And I think also a recognition that by partnering, we can serve more children better. So, for example, some parts of my service area are very rural, and families weren't able to access the Head Start classroom because of a lack of transportation. So when we partnered with a local district, the transportation was kind of part of the package that was offered to children and to their families. I think also, as others have mentioned, there was a recognition that by combining our resources, children that were eligible for Head Start were able to receive, and their families were able to receive, additional kind of behind the scenes comprehensive services that allowed them to really maximize their pre-K opportunity. And, there was benefits certainly for the children, but also for the districts that were receiving them in pre-K and later on K.
Thanks, Christina. I'll go to Rick and then Monica.
Well, I will say that the partnership that SAD 17 had with Community Concepts for Head Start programming actually began when they constructed a new school in 2005. And in that new school, there were 2 classrooms that were set aside for pre-K. But the district had very little engagement or involvement in that program. They simply contracted with Community Concepts to provide the teaching and the staffing, and the students that were enrolled in it had to be Head Start eligible. And we were desperately looking to expand. And quite frankly, the greatest hindrance to our partnership was my prior preconceived understanding of Head Start and its goals and objectives, which were significantly outdated. And so what happened was actually a strategic move on the part of Community Concepts, where they invited me to be on their board of directors. And they did this before we did our pre-K expansion. So it gave me some access to information and programming that allowed me to see the organization from inside. In 2010, we began to expand our partnerships and then greatly expanded them when the pre-K grants came out. We now have, or SAD 17 now has, I believe it is 6 full programs. Some schools have 2 or 3 classrooms, and some schools have just 1. And in our case, the partnership has been incredibly supportive of the community needs, and it's a blend. What happened is the district hires the teacher that's responsible for the pre-K classroom, but Head Start provides the teacher twos and the support ed techs within those classrooms, and the district follows the Head Start curriculum and guidelines. Our enrollment is still based on income and uses the Head Start requirements as a screening tool. But we're not limited simply to Head Start eligible kids, which means our classrooms typically are about 50% Head Start eligible and 50% that are not. But they all go through the same application process and enrollment process, and it gives us incredible information about our families and their needs. The benefits of the program are incredible. I would say that there are probably 5 that I can cite here. One of them is the professional development that came with the partnership, helped to bring some significant insights into the learning of young children that actually was then able to mold and meld in with our kindergarten programming and even our first grade programming. So, building blocks, second step, pre-K, for me, all of those were things that were unknown to us before this partnership began. The second thing was assessments that I think we were baffled by, and Head Start brought those in for us, and we have now expanded them. So we have DIAL not only in pre-K, but we have it in kindergarten as well. Second step, we do teaching strategies gold assessments, and all of those have given us fuel to support pre-K as we take that data to the board and say, look at the outcome for our kids that needed that support. The third thing was continuity of programming. With 8 or 9 classrooms across the district and 7 schools, it was really important to have some consistency in our programming expectations, and Head Start provided that. And then access to community resources was something, we never thought of. But having a partnership with Community Concepts allowed us to provide wraparound services to about 70% of our pre-kindergarten population that were struggling with other issues such as, LIHEAP and being able to access dental care and other kinds of supports. So that brought us resources that we did not know existed within our community and made them accessible to all of our kids. And then finally was the notion of full day. That was a hard pill to swallow. We all had preconceived notions of what a full day would look like until we realized that many of our pre-kindergarten students that came to a half-day program were then going to an extended day program somewhere else to get childcare till 6 o'clock at night. So for us, we offer full-day programs. So I think those were the 5 huge significant learnings we had by this partnership.
So I think I will echo a lot of what everyone said already, so I'll be brief. So Lewiston and Promise already had an established partnership, but I think the way we enhanced it was through the expansion grant. I think that was 2015. Officially before me, I was in the district, but not in this role. So I think for us, that was the increased dose and duration, and as others have said, the wraparound services and targeting the most at-risk population for sure, but not excluding those who do not qualify for Head Start. Our big benefits, I would say, for our district, we have 5 elementary schools, but Promise is only in one of those elementary schools, and then we also have some other partnership classrooms at their buildings and locations. So out of all of our classrooms, the whole pre-K arena we have alignment of screening and assessment, curricula, and as well as professional learning opportunities for all staff, teachers, ed techs, family service, whoever falls under that umbrella, everyone does the same thing.
Okay. Thank you. So Sue, Christina, and Monica, I wondered if the 3 of you could sort of take turns and elaborate on how your specific relationships with your partners have evolved over time.
So I can keep going if
Great.
first. As I said before, we had a long-standing relationship. Our partnership with Promise started in 2007, actually, when that was Lewiston's first go at pre-K. So, and that partnership dissolved after a few years. It was not the greatest. It was a lot of arguments about who had the right way, and leadership was just not wanting to deal with it so much. So we dissolved that partnership, continued pre-K in Lewiston, and then in 2012 picked up the partnership again. New leadership on both ends at Promise and within the public schools. And it was more it was just more functioning. Head Start was functioning in our building. We really, they were there, but we didn't really integrate them into much. It was just, here you go, this is your location. And then fast forward to 2015 with the PEG grant, my role was established coordinator and coach, and building admin and the superintendent really embraced the program and understood early childhood. So we made a point to have the district and stakeholders from Promise always in communication, meeting. It was not an us and them culture. It was really very collaborative with decision making, programming. We do now, it's when I go to admin trainings, I invite counterparts from Promise, and it's just yep, here they come. Like it's normal now. It's not who's that. And like vice versa. Promise invites me to coaching sessions, PD. It's just very collaborative. And I think when people think now of pre-K in Lewiston, it's just pre-K in Lewiston. It's not, well, that's a Head Start room. This is an LPS room. Nope, it's just, this is pre-K and who's your teacher? It doesn't matter. There's no designation. Oh, well, they're a Promise teacher. They're just pre-K in Lewiston. So that's my short and sweet.
Thank you.
Monica, you make so many good points, and a lot of which we've also experienced in Aroostook. One of the things that we noticed is at our Southern Aroostook partnership with RSU 50, we started in that program by being approached by the principal who wanted to start pre-K and basically said, will you move into our building and start pre-K? So we ran public pre-K for the district. Any child could attend. We had a behind the scenes way of determining who was Head Start eligible and claiming those children as Head Start. But everyone could attend, and there was no difference in the programming that any child within that classroom received. As we know happens over the course of the 17 years, there have been many changes in leadership. Actually for us, it was on the school side. And as different superintendents and principals transitioned through, they had ideas of how that partnership should look. And one of the things that I think I have learned the most from partnering is that there's give and take on both sides. And sometimes even if you think it's not exactly the right way to go, in order to make a partnership work or at least get off the ground, you need to make some compromise. So there's a lot of compromising that has gone on over the years. And to different approaches. For example, at one point, we had a principal who wanted the 3- and 4-year-olds removed to transition through all of the specials that the school offered. So on Monday and Tuesday, they went to gym and computer room. And on Wednesday and Thursday, they went to art and the library. And then realized that behaviors were starting to happen in the room. And why was that? Which is when our early childhood coordinators could come in and say, well, it could be because of too many transitions for these little people, and having conversation with that. And then moving back to having those specials come to the classroom where children really were able to engage if they chose to do that at an age appropriate level, and the behaviors went away. I think by doing through that compromise, building trust with the school department, with the Head Start agency, building trust with the school department that, okay, we can work with this organization, and through that have built a really awesome partnership and service to children. We're stronger together. We are able to offer more to the community together, and we're more effective together. So through all of those give and take, we've been able to build a really strong partnership where now if we're going to make an adjustment on either side, we have those communication channels established. So we're talking about things on a regular basis. We're consulting with each other on a regular basis, not only around pre-K, but around other policies and partnerships, other policies and procedures within our programs. So building that trust and building that relationship within communities is really important, and partnership is a great way to do that.
I would echo all that others have said, and I'll just highlight a few things. I think it's important to recognize that each partnership is different. So each district I work with has a slightly different model and approach, which is appropriate for their community. I would also say, as Monica did, that the opportunity of being part of the pre-K expansion that began in 2015 allowed us to add additional classrooms and also to extend some of our half-day pre-K classrooms to full school day classrooms, which had real benefits for families and kids. You know, as Richard mentioned, I think that one thing that we recognized along the way was that Head Start can seem overwhelming if you haven't spent a lot of time in that world. And so, you know, we have this model of having lots of content specialists in different, you know, mental health and disabilities and nutrition and health. And so our agency moved to a model where all those specialists exist, but we have one individual who manages all of our pre-K partnerships. So there's one point of contact for the districts. And that seems to have helped quite a bit. I think that this very week is a really good example of how that partnership is, you know, capital P. All of the districts that we work with, we talked with them about the opportunity to move to the pre-K for Me curriculum. And so all of them are doing that. And so the Head Start teachers and the public school teachers spent 2 days this week together in a room learning that new curriculum. And again, it just strengthens what we're offering for all children.
Thank you. So perhaps Annie, Richard, Monica, I wondered if the three of you could speak to how you addressed the various program standards. So public school or public pre-K has Chapter 124. Of course, the Office of Child and Family Services oversees licensing, and then Head Start requirements. So how did that work in your partnership?
I can go ahead and start off. I'm sure other people can fill in. So here at the Y, we are a NACCE accredited program, which allows us to be on the step 4 with our MOU for both West Bath and RSU1. That is part of our requirement, is that we're a step 4, and we've agreed to withhold up to the NACCE standard for our program. So there's all of these layers involved in a program like mine when you're running a partnership. And so we have our NACCE accreditation, and then we have our state of Maine licensing, and then we have our requirements with Chapter 124, which we have to meet. And so, you know, part of that means that we're obtaining the proper staff for our program. And, you know, we have 81 qualified staff as lead teachers, and we have ed techs for our assistants. And each year we have to ensure that we're up to that standard so that we can provide the proper pre-K environment, which makes sure that every child in the district is receiving an equal benefit. And, you know, we work to meet curriculum standards. With RSU1, they do allow us to have a different curriculum. So we don't have the same curriculum that the Head Start program runs. We offer a different curriculum at the Y. We utilize creative curriculum, and but we still uphold to all of those same standards with our screenings and our assessments. And, you know, the Dial 4 in the fall, as well as our assessments that take place throughout the year. So we try to stay on the same page, but really understanding all of those layers is a really big piece of maintaining your partnership.
Thanks, Annie.
Yeah, I can throw in a little bit here. It's very similar to what Annie said. Obviously, when you get a pre-K program approved, you have to go through an approval process to have those students count for attendance purposes in a school. That requires us to obtain a license through, you know, the appropriate source. It requires everything else that Annie's mentioned. How we navigated it was actually with our partners. So Community Concepts and SAD 17 applied together. We had the site visits and did them together. Because SAD 17 is responsible for hiring the classroom teacher, the 081, we're responsible for ensuring, hiring certified personnel and making sure that they have the training necessary to maintain those certificates. And Community Concepts has been overseeing and is responsible for the ed techs or the aides in the program, which actually it's been kind of a feeder program actually for us, because those teachers, those aides get in there and do a great job, and the district can provide them with educational opportunities that allow them to get licensed. And then as teachers leave, we end up having a feeder program that helps to provide us with highly qualified staff that are well aware of the routines and practices. So I would say it was with partnership with Community Concepts that all of our programs were both applied for and licensing was obtained.
I would echo what both Annie and Richard said, but I think for sure knowledge is power. I think we assume we may know what a Head Start standard is, or which way is the best way to do things. So communication definitely with partners and figuring out which standard you're going to follow. We've learned that we tend to go with the strictest reg, and then even if it's some new territory that we haven't explored yet, we've also backed off on those. For example, we used to have ed techs ride the bus with our pre-K kiddos so that we would hand them off to a parent. So if something were to happen, we would know that who they went with and their emergency contacts. And we didn't do that with COVID because we couldn't fit that extra person on the bus. So it worked out fine. So we're going to continue moving forward, whereas that was a very stringent thing we started with, and now we've released some of that. So live and learn, definitely. And I think, like I said, knowledge is power and communication is huge.
Thanks, Monica. Okay, so the next question is around overcoming barriers. So I wondered if we could take a minute and have Christina, Annie, and Richard describe or explain how you and your partners have worked to overcome any barriers that you may have experienced during your partnerships.
I would say the word that comes to mind here is communication. It's been so helpful to have a system established where there's regular communication kind of top to bottom. So for example, in RSU 12, the administrative team on both the Head Start side and the district side meet monthly. And that's really helped not only, alleviate barriers, but build relationships. I think just having a shared vision, what is it that we all want for our children and families participating in pre-K has made a big difference. And as others have said, shared training and professional development, just allows us to be all on the same page. But it kind of related to the previous question. One thing that we did when we were forming a new partnership was we created a little crosswalk of Chapter 124 and the Head Start performance standards and childcare licensing, so that it was more clear to everybody, there was more similarities than differences among those. There are some differences, of course, but we were able to work out those little details about, family style eating and things like that through some of those strategies.
I'll echo a lot of what Christina's saying, and the communication is a big piece. I'm not sure about barriers, but challenges, right? We all get into a challenging situation, and it's understanding that Kate and I, we're working together. We have a common goal, we want all of these children to succeed. And so how can we communicate effectively to ensure that those goals are being reached? Whether the child attends through my program or a different program across town, we have to work together to ensure that those goals are met. And so communication is a big part of that. I also second the team meetings. You know, we have a monthly team meeting where all of our teachers are present, and we don't necessarily work in the same programs and we don't have the same curriculum standards, but we are all teachers of pre-K kids in this school district. And so it helps to come together as a group and have those meetings, those face-to-face connections, more over Zoom lately, but that's okay. So that we understand where our common grounds are and that we support one another in that goal.
Yeah, I would echo all of that. I mean, it's silly now when I think back where our obstacles were, but the greatest obstacle we had when our partnership first formed was the admission process. You know, Head Start was adamant that they had a process that they had to go through in order to approve students, and SAD 17 had an enrollment process to get kids enrolled into the school, and it seemed forever that was going to be the biggest barrier that really got in our way. As Christina said, it was all about communication. It really was sitting down and having a conversation. Okay, what is essential for Head Start enrollment? What is essential for SAD 17? How can we break down some of the silos? And we actually follow very closely the Head Start guidelines for enrollment for all of our kids, but our school secretary handles all of those enrollments. So everything goes through the school secretary who oversees the enrollment, and then that information is shared with Head Start so they can confirm those that qualified. And the benefit by doing that is parents didn't see it as being a social agency that was providing a service to their kid. They just thought they were enrolling their kids in school. And the fact that we are adding additional information in that packet was not unfamiliar to them. They thought that was just part of the enrollment process. So we overcame it. It took a lot of conversation about what's essential. And the other things such as, you know, family eating and dining, there was so much flexibility that should not be a barrier. But some schools it is. But so in this case, our curriculum coordinator, Heather Manchester, and they're the equivalent of that position within Head Start. They met on every other week particularly during the enrollment process. They co-supervise staff, so they were out doing observations and providing support of staff, and there was a monthly meeting about what we need to do to support staff in their roles. So it is about communication, and it's about not letting some of those roadblocks that are very easy to sidetrack you get in the way of doing what's right for all kids.
Thanks, Rick. Kate, I see your hand raised.
Oh, there we go. Yep, I just wanted to say that it takes trust. Takes trust and a relationship and compromise and all of those things that were spoken of. But, you know, you have to have, I'll go back to Christina. What would Christina say? Do you have a relationship, and what is your goal? So if you can keep yourself on track as to what your goal is, then, and trust the process of communication and honesty, you usually can find common, like has been spoken, common ground, because we've had our ups and downs and don't always agree, but we do all agree that we have a common goal, and we do all agree that we have to find a way for it to function. So I just wanted to say hats off to you all, but it does take trust, and you have to trust in the process of communication, and you have to be willing to compromise. You have to be willing to stand at the gate. You're on the bridge and you're at the gate, but you got to be able to take that step of trust. So I'm off my soapbox now.
Actually, Kate, I'm gonna.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No, that was great. I appreciate you chiming in. And actually, I'm going to ask you and Annie, if the two of you, since you're with us today from a partnership, right? The two of you worked together in your region. I wondered if the two of you could speak to how you've organized your MOU. So in regards to maybe funding or space or whatever that looks like for your RSU1 and YMCA partnership.
So since I've already been talking, I'll just go ahead if that's okay with you, Annie.
Sure.
A memorandum of understanding clearly states our expectations, because if you don't state your expectation, there's a lot of us assuming. So it's very specific. We talk to developmentally appropriate learning experiences, positive transitions to public school setting when they go to kindergarten, recognizing the importance of parents and guardians. You know, we recognize all of those common things, and our goal is to provide all families with 4-year-old children living in our towns served by RSU1 to access quality, developmentally appropriate preschool programs. So, you know, it's very explicit, the language of it. It's not a little bit of legalese, but it's really the basics of what are our goals, what are our expectations, and that we're on the same page. So, and having written into the contract that you have to meet, you have to talk, we have to have time together, that we can collaborate and have professional development and be on the same page. So that's, you know, that's basically what our MOU consists of. We are willing to share that with any partner that's looking for something to, I can email this to anyone, and you'll be able to glean from it the things that you can use or that might be beneficial to your program. And then we have a contract with our partner. There's a contract that says, you know, if you do the math, it's a good program for a childcare center or a collaboration, because, you know, there's a little bit of money out there and it should go in the right directions, right? So we have a contract. We have 35 weeks. We do run a little bit different because for billing purposes, it just worked better for them to be able to bill per week. And so we stick to a 35-week schedule that encompasses the regular school year. And that's how we function. And that's a little more legal because it's a contract. But, you know, it states specifically how the program should run, and that and to provide a coordinator. It's in our contract that there will be a coordinator, because Christina spoke to the fact that they incorporated one person as a contact, and for a program that can be crucial to have that one person that understands how your program works, understands how you're different, appreciates why you're different, and then is able to help you through maybe you need some strategies, or, you know, something's going on, but there's somebody there that understands your program and wants to collaborate with you and trusts you to be there for the same reason that we're all here, right? Okay, I'm done.
I guess I could echo what Kate's saying, but that's a moot point. She does a great job at fully covering it, and she makes my job kind of easy, doesn't she? Because yes, it's clearly lined out and the expectations are very clear. I guess all I can reiterate is communication. So Kate and I have to have a very solid relationship with communicating to one another, making sure that we're staying on that same page when it's time to revisit that MOU, that we're both sitting down and understanding what my responsibilities are to that MOU, and ensuring that our programs are aligned.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate and Annie. We do have a question in the chat box that I want to address, but before I do that, we have our final prompt. So I just wanted to ask all panelists to take turns and in maybe 15 seconds or less, offer one or two tidbits of advice that you would give to prospective partners. So, or maybe in other words, what piece of advice did you wish you had that could be beneficial for others? Go ahead, Sue.
I believe that one of the most important pieces of partnership is taking time to plan. not jumping into the situation before you've really had a chance to involve the key stakeholders on both teams. Having the stakeholders on both teams engaged and on board with moving forward with the partnership has been really important in the process. It's important for people to be able to ask questions and be able to get their doubts at least heard, if not resolved. Because no matter how hard you try and how wonderful a superintendent and I may think that a partnership is, that doesn't mean that the kindergarten teacher is thinking that this is a good idea at all. So it's really important to have those key partners on both teams involved in the process, in the discussions, to understand what it is that our goals are, what it is we want to accomplish, and why in the world would we even, try to partner with another entity, with another agency. So that to me is extremely important. I also think it's really important to appreciate the strengths that each of the partners and their team bring to the table. It's if that appreciation is not there, it makes change difficult. It makes moving forward difficult. I can say from experience that having a team member that said, well, that's not the way we do it in every other classroom, is not helpful in working as a partner. To be a partner, you need to have a mindset of compromise and appreciating that there are many experts sitting around the table, and we all bring something different to that discussion, and trust, and all of that is important in moving that forward.
Thanks, Sue. Feel free to jump in, panelists. I wasn't gonna put you on the spot if you didn't have it.
So I will say, and I'll echo what others have said about the team meetings. Those are crucial. I have a meeting with my counterpart at Promise weekly or bi-weekly, and then we have a larger meeting with superintendent and director of Promise to just talk about challenges and policy, things that come up, celebrate successes even. Imagine that, right? And then it's not going to happen overnight, and there will be growing pains. And so to know, as much as we all want it to be perfect, both sides, everybody always wants it to be perfect, it will take time. So just know, and everyone always has the best intentions for our children and families. So if we keep that in the forefront, we'll have some successes.
Thanks, Mom.
I'll jump in next. I'll echo some of this, but we actually had an ECAC committee separate from our teacher meetings, right, Kate? And that was a separate monthly meeting that we had with other community partners, including people from the United Way and someone that would come in and update us about policy and advocacy across the state. We always invited a principal or the superintendent to attend these meetings, and it was just really beneficial for us to all be on the same page and to understand how we could work together to collaborate to continue to move forward. That committee no longer is really needed. Kate and I we disbanded it. We decided it really didn't serve a purpose any longer. But when we were getting our program started in the beginning, I think Kate would say that that was a really critical piece in ensuring that the community players all knew they had a seat at the table so that we could all work together. And that kind of brings me to the fact that don't we all have common goals, and finding those common goals for the children, because it really, the benefit to the community is tremendous when you can elevate your program to the point of having these community partners. I see the benefit. We love having these children in our community building at the Y, and then they come back from years on end, and they always, wave at their preschool teachers, and they recognize the building, and they've been here, they're going to grow up in this building. And that's a really amazing impact to have in your community when you have partnerships.
Any others?
I would say my quick 15 seconds of advice is through the successful days, the great days, and the challenging days, keeping that vision of what's best for kids and families at the forefront really helps you make it all happen.
Thank you, Christina.
I'll just throw in as well that there's, Head Start has a group of students that they target and have resources to put at those students. And districts also have those same students that will likely need to be targeted. So don't let arrogance step in the way or indifference, because with communication, again, I wish I had known this 15 years ago, but with communication, both organizations are malleable. They both have flexibility, and with the right conversation and a commitment to time, they can work that out.
Well, I guess I'll go next. So I just wrote down that understanding and embracing your partnership, like it's like a family or a relationship. You're not clones of each other. You don't want to be clones of each other, but you need to appreciate the differences and embrace them, and be able to communicate that we can find common ground. And there's more things in common than there are difference, which everybody has already said. But I'm gonna do a little plug for coordinating, because one person coordinating with a program can change the experience. I've been lucky enough to stay in this program. I'm going into my 6th year, so that being familiar with people and different programs and appreciating, really educating each other about each other. You really have to learn about each other and accept each other, and it has to be a safe place. Like somebody mentioned that you need to be able to ask a question like, why is that so important to you? I don't get it. And then being receptive enough to accept the explanation that comes with that. So the flexibility, you got to have some flexibility and compromise in mind. It's not going to always be, we want that sunny garden, but it's not, there's always a few weeds in there. We got to get in and taken care of. And, if you work together, it all grows into a beautiful program, right? And partnership. Anyway.
Great analogy, Kate. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so in interest of time, I see we have about 3 minutes left, although my computer clock is not the same as my phone. So panelists, I understand if you have a 1 o'clock commitment and need to hop off, no judgment, totally understand. But there is a question in the chat box I see Sue's responded to a bit as well, that I wanted to offer to the others. So how have folks addressed the pay and benefits disparity between pre-K teachers on school salaries and pre-K teachers on community partner salaries?
Kate, do you want to answer? You rose your hand. Go ahead.
I did.
Yeah.
I can't press that button fast enough. So anyway, we did look at the disparity, and we have been trying each year to increase the amount of money that we pay per student. And it can be substantial. If you're a new partnership starting out, that money can be a boost to your salary and planning. And it's we did our best to, and every year we go to the school board and recognize that they're certified teachers teaching in a program, and how can we, and we have made increases. So in the past 4 years, we've made an increase. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's $15 per student, but 15 might lead to 20 and 20 might learn to 25. But it's an issue that it is an issue, but you just have to address it honestly. Like, we'll do what we can, and this is what we can do, and you come to a compromise. So anyway, that's what we did as a district.
Rick, I see your hand raised. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, thank you, because I do need to leave very shortly, but I will say the issue was resolved in SAD 17 when we assumed responsibility for hiring all the pre-K teachers. So all of those teachers are under the district's contract. They have the same contract every other teacher has, and they're on the same pay scale. The challenge is the ed techs that are paid and hired by Community Concepts. their wages are slightly lower than the ed tech wages in the district contract. And their hours are slightly different. But we are working, or we have worked with Community Concepts. They have a goal of trying to bring parity to those ed tech positions so that that issue won't be there much longer. And like everyone else, they're struggling to find and hire competent people, and therefore raising the salary is a good way to get there. So, and that's where I'll leave it. Now I'll have to say goodbye, but thank you all. And
Thank you, Rick, so much.
good luck to you.
Thank you.
I can add to that with the labor market the way it is right now and has been for the last few years. I think it's important for agencies, even if you're not partnering, to really look at what is an appropriate compensation for the certifications. My agency, in addressing that, actually built a career ladder for our educators. We hire all Ed Tech 2s and Ed Tech 3s within all of our programs, whether we're in partnership or not. We have a certified teacher pay scale that is comparable to the other school departments in Aroostook County. And by doing that, we have helped ourselves to lessen the number of our staff that vacate to go to public school positions. It's a challenge, as you can imagine, when we invest a significant amount into training and getting teachers certified, to then have them leave to go to public school positions, which was happening in the past. We've gone from about 5 years ago to having 4 and 5 teachers leave us a year to go to public school positions, to this year it was 1. So it does make a difference. And we are not unionized within Head Start. I'm not sure, I can't speak for Annie, but within Head Start, we're not unionized. So that is a difference. I know that's in the chat box as well. But the benefits, it's not Maine State teacher retirement, which again is different. However, we do offer an extremely healthy retirement package for our employees. But it is something that we have to be aware of if we want to stay competitive and we want to keep our employees working for us.
Great. Well, thank you for your insight on that question. I didn't see any others come through. Nina, you think we're good on your end in terms of that? Great. Great. Well, thank you, all of you, and Rick, for taking the time to do this for us today. It was hugely helpful, and will continue to serve as a benefit for districts moving forward, I think, where we were able to record this and house it for future viewing. So I really appreciate that. I did just in one final slide, just wanted to pull up our contact information for anybody that is looking to reach out later.